The studio lights were blinding, the cameras rolling, and millions of viewers tuned in across the nation when the unthinkable happened. Chief Justice John Roberts raised his voice, breaking the calm, measured tone he was known for. His sharp words sliced through the air, directed straight at Senator John Kennedy, who sat across the stage. Gasps filled the live audience as Roberts leaned forward, his usually controlled demeanor unraveling in front of everyone. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The world wasn't used to seeing one of the nation's most respected legal figures lose his composure on live television. Roberts' voice thundered as he accused Kennedy of recklessly undermining the very institutions that hold this country together. His hand struck the table for emphasis, and his face flushed red with frustration. It wasn't just a disagreement anymore, it was a clash of principles, raw and unfiltered. Kennedy, however, didn't flinch. He sat there calmly, his eyes steady, his expression unreadable. When the roar of Roberts' words finally died down, Kennedy leaned slightly forward, his voice quiet but cold enough to silence the entire room. "With all due respect, Chief Justice," he said, pausing just long enough to draw every ear closer, "it's not reckless to ask questions. It's reckless to silence them." The audience gasped again. But this time the energy shifted. The anger in Roberts' face was met with a chilling calm that Kennedy seemed to radiate. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't pound the table. His composure itself was louder than Roberts' fury. What led to this explosive moment had been building for months. Tensions between Congress and the court had been rising, with Kennedy one of the few senators unafraid to publicly question the decisions, motives, and even the transparency of the judicial branch. Critics called him reckless, supporters called him fearless. But everyone agreed on one thing: he was not someone to back down, even when facing the highest authority in the land. On this night, during a live televised panel meant to show unity, the thin thread of civility snapped. Roberts, worn down by constant criticism and the weight of preserving the court's image, let his frustration show. Kennedy, on the other hand, had been waiting for this. He knew that losing his cool would make him look weak, so instead, he did the opposite. He kept his composure so tightly controlled that his restraint itself became an act of defiance. The silence after his cold response lasted only a few seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Roberts leaned back, realizing what had just happened, that in raising his voice, he had lost the very dignity he had spent decades building. Kennedy's words echoed in the air, replayed in the minds of everyone watching, and within hours, clips of the exchange went viral across every platform. The internet exploded. Memes, hashtags, and debates flooded social media. Some sided with Roberts, saying Kennedy's questions were dangerous. Others celebrated Kennedy's calm response as the mark of true leadership. But what no one could deny was the impact. Kennedy had turned the tables, not with anger, but with restraint. In the days that followed, people began to look deeper into the exchange. Commentators pointed out the symbolism: one man screaming to hold on to control, and another quietly challenging the system. The moment sparked conversations about power, truth, and the courage it takes to stand firm when the easier path would be silence. Kennedy himself did not boast about the incident. When asked about it later, he simply said, "I wasn't there to win an argument. I was there to stand for the people who feel unheard." Sometimes, the quietest voice is the one that carries the farthest. That humility struck a chord across the nation. People saw in him not just a politician, but someone willing to face fire without flinching. And for Roberts, though his outburst drew criticism, it also revealed something deeper: how fragile the balance of power truly was, and how much pressure weighed on those at the very top. The clash between Roberts and Kennedy became more than just a viral moment. It became a reminder that strength isn't always shown in volume, but in control. That courage isn't always loud, but steady. And that sometimes, the most powerful response to anger is calm defiance. By the end of that week, the world had already moved on to the next headline, but for millions who had watched, the lesson stayed. True leadership isn't measured by how loud you can shout it, it's measured by how steady you remain when the shouting begins. And so, the story of that fiery clash lived on, not as a scandal, but as a moment of clarity. A reminder to every person watching that dignity, discipline, and courage in the face of pressure are what truly inspire change.